there must have been some work in the processing of that film to give it an even more a grainy look, because I mean, the reality is it looks really old, and no matter how much, whether it's 8mm, 16mm, it's still going to be a little bit cleaner than you guys are presenting on the show. So talk to me about some of the processing that was done and what your strategy was to give it that, winning time look.
I mean, it's funny, modern film stocks are so clean and they're beautiful. I mean, they're so gorgeous, but 10, 15, 20 years ago, I feel like even 10 years ago, I remember there was Fuji and there were all these different kinds of film stocks, and there was you had more choices for the aesthetic and the look. And now I find that Vision 3, the series Kodak film is so beautiful, but they have a very uniform look to them. So it becomes about how do you break them down to get them to look like how we remember film stocks looking back then. But also for us, it was about, I think for me at least, is about realizing that the look we're going for is not actually even an older film stock. It's an older film print. And it's an older film print that has been left in a box and ignored. And we've now rescanned it. And it's kind of falling apart, So for us to do that, I mean, the basics are we processed everything. We underexposed everything, more so in the pilot, less so on the show, but we underexposed to a certain degree. And then there's a bunch of digital processes as well that soften certain colors in the film so that faces are protected, but the rest of the image sort of approximates more of a 16mm resolution than a 35mm resolution. We added more gate weave that would be closer to in between 8 and 16mm in terms of the gate's movement as opposed to 35. It's another thing is the new cameras, the gates are so solid that they don't move as much as the older ones, or even imagine if you're watching a film print on a bad projector in a theater, there may be more movement in it,
Yeah.
Digital grain added on top of the organic grain, extra highlight halation added digitally that would represent more the way a 16mm negative, the highlights would bounce through the emulsion and back through the film. So things like that, kind of I don't know, I always thought of it as a hybrid of a photochemical and digital look, and then there's the LUTs that were created by our colorist, Walter Valpato, that are essentially riffs on Ektachrome or Kodachrome film stocks, but in my opinion, contrastier even, I mean, we tested real Ektachrome and it's beautiful, but it also felt too modern, and we needed something that was more contrasty and more stripped down and dirtier, in the blacks and things like that. Is there anything, I feel like I'm leaving stuff out, Mihai. I mean, we didn't dust bust the negative, we left all the dirt and dust that stays on the negative at the lab. They normally blow it off, but we asked them to keep it all in as a base, Is there anything else? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the dust in the gate, that I'm looking at the 8mm footage, and as soon as there's a bit of dust there, it's so organic and great. And digitally, we cleaned only the dust that was really offensive or was really on top of somebody's face, but that.